Come on closer, child. Don't be scared of an old woman's tears. They ain't nothing but love with nowhere to go. Sit down right there on that porch. Swing mine the rusty chain. It squeaks like a banshee, but it holds up just fine. Yeah, just like me. I reckon listen to those cicadas buzzing in the heat sounds just like it did back then. Back in the summer of '68, you ever have a day where the sun is shining so bright, it hurts your eyes, but your inside feels cold as a tomb? That's what that day was like. I got this box here on my lap. See how my hands shake holding it? I ain't opened this lid in 30 years. Inside is a letter and a medal wrapped in a handkerchief that smells like cedar and sorrow. I never told nobody about this moment, not even my husband Johnny, God rest his soul. He thought he knew everything about me. He thought he knew every scar on my heart, but he didn't know this one. See, everybody talks about the telegrams and the men in uniforms walking up the driveway, but nobody talks about the silence that comes before it, that heavy, thick silence that settles over the house like a wool blanket in July. I was in the kitchen canning peaches. The air was sticky, sweet, and hot enough to boil an egg on the sidewalk, and suddenly the birds stopped singing just like that. Quiet, dead quiet. Even the dog stopped barking at the mailman, and I knew deep in my gut, in that place where mothers just know things that the world had just broke into. I saw the black sedan turn down our dirt road, raising a cloud of dust that looked like smoke, and I froze right there with a mason jar in my hand. I didn't cry, not yet. I just watched them get out slow and solemn, adjusting their hats. And I thought to myself, Lord, please take me instead. Take me right now and spare him. But the Lord don't always bargain like that, does he? And that walk up the path seemed to take 100 years. I could see the sweat on their upper lips. I could see the pity in their eyes, and I wanted to scream at them to go away, to turn around and leave us in our ignorance. But I just stood there and wiped my hands on my apron like I was fixing to serve them tea, instead of hearing the news that would shatter my family into a million jagged pieces. So stay with me, honey, because I'm fixing to tell you what happened next and why I kept this letter sealed shut for half a century. Because sometimes the truth is too heavy to carry alone, and I need someone to help me set it down. Now wipe your eyes, sugar. Let's put that sadness away for a minute and travel back, way back before the world got so loud and angry, back to when I was just a slip of a girl with skin knees and a ribbon in my hair. You gotta understand the world was bigger then, or maybe we was just smaller, living in a town where the map ended at the county line, and we didn't mind one bit. We was barefoot half the year running through fields of clover and buttercups till the bottoms of our feet was tough as leather and our hearts was light as dandelion seeds. It was a time of porch swings and lemonade made with real sugar, none of that corn syrup mess you get. Now, we didn't have much money. Daddy worked the line at the Ford plant, and Mama took in washing from the rich folks up on the hill, but we had music on the radio, and we had each other, and let me tell you, Saturday night felt like Christmas Eve every single week, because that was when we went into town. It was 1948. I reckon the war was over, and the whole country felt like it was waking up from a long, bad dream. Folks was happy just to be alive, just to be able to buy a pair of nylons or a fresh orange without a ration card. The air smelled like possibilities and gasoline and cheap perfume, and that's when I saw him, Johnny Miller, leaning against the counter at Sally's Diner, spinning a nickel on the Formica top and looking like he owned the whole world. He had hair dark as a raven's wing and eyes that crinkled up when he laughed, and Lord, did that boy like to laugh. He was wearing his brother's hand-me-down jacket, but to me he looked like James Dean and Frank Sinatra rolled into one. I was 16 and skinny as a rail, crying over a spilled milkshake, but he just slid his glass over to me and said, "Don't cry, darling. There's plenty more sweetness in this world if you know where to look." And I reckon my heart stopped beating right then and there. Court 10 was different back then. Honey, we didn't have no Tinder or cell phones to hide behind. If a boy liked you, he had to come knock on your daddy's door, hat in hand, and ask permission just to sit on the porch swing with you. My daddy was a stern man who kept his shotgun cleaned and oiled, and he looked at Johnny like a hawk watching a field mouse, but Johnny didn't flinch. No, sir. He looked my daddy in the eye and promised to treat me like a queen, even if he only had a pauper's budget, and that was the beginning of the dance. We went to the drive and theater in his beat-up Chevy pickup truck, watching monster movies and holding hands so tight. Our palms got sweaty, listening to the crickets harmonize with the staticky speaker hanging on the window. We talked about everything and nothing, dreaming big dreams about a little house with a white picket fence and a yard full of babies. We was naive. Yes, Lord, we were so naive thinking love was enough to keep the rain off our heads, but it was a beautiful kind of foolishness, wasn't it? We got married in the June of 52 under the weeping willow by the creek because the church cost too much and we wanted to save our pennies for a honeymoon in Gatlinburg. I wore my cousin's wedding dress that we pinned up in the back with safety pins, and my bouquet was wildflowers. Johnny picked from the side of the road that morning, but I felt like royalty walking across that grass towards him, seeing him standing there in a borrowed suit, nervous as a cat in a room full of rockers. His hand shaking when he slipped that thin gold band on my finger, a band we paid for and lay away $5 a month for a year. We promised to love and to cherish in sickness and in health, and we meant every single word of it, not knowing that the sickness and the health would test us in ways that would break weaker folks in half. But that day, oh, that day was pure magic. The sun set like a peach melting into the horizon, and we danced on the grass to a scratchy record player under the light of the fireflies. And for a moment, just a fleeting moment, we really did believe that the hard times were behind us and only blue skies lay ahead. But you know how weather changes in this country. Honey, storms blow in fast and hard when you least expect them. Well, the honeymoon don't last forever, does it, honey? No matter how sweet the cake is, eventually you gotta do the dishes and scrape the plates. Real life set in about a week after we got back from the mountains, and it hit us like a wet sack of cement. Johnny went back to the mill working double shifts, trying to put food on the table, and I learned real quick that a house don't clean itself and babies don't come with an instruction manual. Our firstborn Bobby came along in 54, screaming his head off with a set of lungs that could wake the dead, and Lord, did we love him? He was the spitting image of his daddy with that same dark hair and that crooked grin that could melt a block of ice. Then came the twins, Mary and Martha, 2 years later, and suddenly our little two-room shack felt like a sardine can bursting at the seams. We was tired, honey. I mean bone-deep tired. The kind of tired sleep don't fix. I remember falling asleep standing up at the sink, washing bottles, dreaming of just 5 minutes of silence, but we was happy too, in a chaotic, loud, sticky kind of way. We was building a life brick by brick, and we thought we was invincible, but the world outside was changing fast. The music got louder, the hair got longer, and the news on the TV started showing things that made your stomach turn. They started talking about a place called Vietnam, a country halfway around the world full of jungles and trouble, and we didn't pay it. No mind at first, thinking it was just another fuss that would blow over like a summer storm, but the storm didn't blow over, did it? It just sat there and spun, getting bigger and darker, eating up our boys one by one. Bobby was 18, then tall and strong, working part-time at the gas station and talking about going to college, maybe being an engineer. He had his whole life spread out in front of him like a map. And then that day came, the one I told you about earlier, when the black car rolled up the driveway and the silence fell. I remember Johnny coming home from the mill that day, his face gray as ash from the dust and the worry. He saw the car parked out front, and he saw me sitting on the porch, swing clutching that folded flag, and he didn't say a word. He just fell to his knees right there in the gravel, crying a sound I never heard a man make before, and I pray I never hear again. It was a sound like an animal caught in a trap. A sound of pure despair ripping a hole in the universe. We buried an empty casket, honey, 'cause there wasn't enough of our boy left to bring home, just some dog tags and a letter he wrote that got to us 3 weeks after he was gone, telling us not to worry and to take care of his guitar. That guitar sat in the corner of the living room gathering dust for 10 years 'cause nobody could bear to touch it without breaking down. And while Johnny was drowning in his grief, the world didn't stop turning, the bills kept coming, and the mill started laying folks off because the economy was tanking, taking a nosedive, just like our spirits. Johnny lost his job 2 months after the funeral, and that man, he just withered. He sat in his chair, staring at the wall, barely eating, barely speaking a shell of the man who used to spin nickels on the diner counter. And this is the secret part, honey, the part I never told. Nobody see Johnny was proud, too proud. He thought he was the provider, and if he couldn't provide, he wasn't a man. So I let him believe everything was okay. I let him think his severance pay was stretching further than it was, but the truth was the money was gone, long gone. So I did what I had to do. I waited till he was asleep or staring out the window, and I went out the back door. I took in ironing from the lawyer's wife. I scrubbed floors at the Baptist church on my hands and knees till my knuckles bled, and I worked the night shift at the diner washing dishes while Johnny thought I was at bingo or visiting my sister. I hid the money in a coffee can, buried in the flour bin, saving every penny just to keep the lights on. And the wolf from the door, I was tired, so tired, I thought I would die. But I looked at my husband broken by a war he didn't fight. And I looked at my girls needing shoes for school. And I found a strength inside me I didn't know was there, a fierce, angry strength like a mother bear protecting her cubs. I carried the weight of our survival on my back in silence, putting on a smile when I walked through the door, cooking beans and cornbread and acting like we was living high on the hog. When inside, I was screaming. It went on like that for years, honey, just scraping by, living in the shadow of grief and poverty, hiding my rough hands so Johnny wouldn't ask why they were so red and raw watching the man I loved fade away little by little, turning into a ghost in his own house. We lost the truck, then we lost the land out back, selling it off acre by acre just to pay the taxes on the house. It felt like the sky had turned a permanent shade of gray, like the sun had forgot how to shine on us folks down here in the valley. And I started to wonder if God had forgot our names too, if he was too busy with the big important people to notice a little family falling apart in a house full of ghosts and secrets. But you keep going, don't you? You keep putting one foot in front of the other, not cause you want to, but cause you have to, cause stopping means dying. And I wasn't ready to let the darkness win. Not yet. Time has a funny way of moving when you're walking through deep mud, don't it, honey? It drags and it pulls, and you think you ain't getting nowhere, but then you look up and 10 years have gone by in the blink of an eye. The 70s blurred into the 80s, like a watercolor painting left out in the rain. And we was just gray figures moving through a gray world. Johnny never really came back from that grief, not all the way. He was there in body, sitting in his recliner watching the news, but his spirit was wandering somewhere lost, looking for the boy we buried. And I was tired, Lord. I was so tired of being the strong one, of holding up the sky so it wouldn't crush us flat. I was keeping secrets, keeping the bills paid, keeping the tears locked behind the bathroom door. And I started to think that maybe this was it. Maybe this was all. Life was just enduring, just surviving till the clock ran out. The house was quiet, terrible quiet, with the girls grown and gone, trying to outrun the sadness that lived in our walls. And me and Johnny, we was like two ships passing in the night, drifting on the same ocean, but miles apart. Then came the winter of '87, a bitter cold winter where the frost stayed on the windows till noon and the wind howled like a wounded dog. Johnny got sick, real sick. It started with a cough that rattled in his chest like loose change and turned into something dark and heavy, catching up with him after all those years of breathing factory smoke and swallowing sorrow. I nursed him, honey. I sat by that bed day and night, spooning broth into his mouth, wiping his brow, trying to pull him back from the edge. But I could see it in his eyes. He was ready. He was tired of fighting, tired of missing his boy. And one night just before dawn when the world was blue and still, he squeezed my hand, tight, stronger than he had in years. And he looked at me clear as a bell and whispered, "Thank you, Maggie. Thank you for everything." And then he was gone. Just like that, slipped away quiet as a shadow, leaving me alone in a house that felt suddenly too big and too empty. I thought that would be the end of me. I truly did. I thought I would just lay down beside him and let the earth take me too. Because what is a kite without the string holding it down? I spent months in a fog, walking room to room, touching his flannel shirts, smelling his Old Spice on the pillow, unable to wash the sheets, because I was terrified of losing the last bit of him. I was drowning, honey, drowning in a sea of memories and regrets, thinking about all the things we didn't say and all the joy we let slip through our fingers. I felt guilty for being alive, guilty for breathing. When my men were gone and I stopped going out, stopped tending the garden, let the weeds take over the flower beds, just sitting on this porch, rocking and waiting for the reaper to come knocking on my door. But the Lord works in mysterious ways, and he don't let you quit even when you want to. One morning in early April when the dogwood trees were just starting to think about blooming, I heard a car pull up the drive. It was my Martha, and she was carrying a bundle wrapped in a yellow blanket. She walked up those steps, tears streaming down her face, and she put that bundle in my arms without a word. I looked down, and there was a face looking back at me, two eyes blue as the summer sky, and a little tuft of hair, dark as a raven's wing, just like Johnny's, just like Bobby's. It was my first grandbaby, little Sarah, and when she reached up with her tiny hand and wrapped her fingers around my thumb, something inside me broke. Not a bad break, honey, but a good one, like a dam bursting, letting the water flow back into a dried up riverbed. I felt a beat in my chest. I hadn't felt in 20 years, a thump of life, of hope, of pure, unadulterated love. This little scrap of humanity didn't know about Vietnam. She didn't know about the mill closing or the secrets in the coffee. She just knew that my arms were warm and my heartbeat was steady. And in that moment, looking at her innocent face, I realized I had a choice. I could stay in the dark with my ghost and wither away, or I could step back into the light for her. I could be the grandma she needed, the one who baked cookies and told stories and showed her where the best blackberries grew. I realized that Bobby and Johnny wouldn't want me to fade away. They would want me to live, to carry their love forward like a torch in the night. So I stood up, honey, I stood up, and I took a deep breath of that crisp spring air, and it hurt my lungs, but it felt good. It felt like waking up from a long coma. I started cleaning the house, opening the windows to let the breeze blow out the stale air of grief. I packed up Johnny's clothes, not throwing them away, mind you, but putting them in cedar chests for safekeeping, making room for the living. I went out to the garden and I pulled up the weeds with my bare hands, feeling the dirt under my fingernails. Again, feeling that connection to the earth that I had lost. I planted tomatoes and snapdragons and sunflowers, big, bright, defiant sunflowers that stood tall against the sky just to prove they could. And as I worked, as I sweat and got my hands dirty, I started talking to them, to Johnny and Bobby, telling them about the baby, about the weather, about the price of eggs, and I felt them there, not as heavy ghosts haunting me, but as warm breezes on my neck watching over me. I found something else too. While I was cleaning out Johnny's toolbox in the shed, tucked way in the back under a pile of rusted washers, was a little notebook I never saw before. I opened it up, trembling, expecting maybe lists of lumber or measurements, but it was a ledger, honey. A book of numbers in his shaky handwriting, detailing every extra cent he made doing our jobs, fixing cars on the weekends, selling scrap metal things I never knew he did. And on the last page he wrote, Maggie is working too hard scrubbing those floors. She thinks I don't know, but I see her hands, I see her tired eyes. I can't say nothing because it would break her heart to know, I know, but I am going to make it up to her one day, I swear it. I sat on the floor of that dusty shed and cried till I couldn't cry no more. Not tears of sadness, but tears of relief, tears of healing, realizing that we was protecting each other all along, that the love was always there, even in the silence. Even in the dark, he knew, honey, he knew, and he loved me for it, and that knowledge healed a part of my heart I didn't even know was broken. It gave me permission to forgive myself, to forgive him, and to start living again, really living, not just for them, but for me. Look at that sun going down, honey, just dipping below the tree line, painting the sky, all purple and gold, like a bruise that's finally healing. It's the prettiest time of day, but it's the saddest too, because it means another day is gone forever, slipped through our fingers like sand through a sieve. I sit out here on this porch every evening watching the world change, watching the cars zip by faster and faster. Everybody in such a hurry to get nowhere. I see you young folks walking past my fence, looking down at those glowing screens in your hands, thumbs tapping away a mile a minute, connecting with people across the ocean, but ignoring the neighbor waving hello right next door. It breaks my heart a little bit, if I'm being honest, seeing how lonely you all look, staring into that blue light, thinking that's what life is about. I reckon you think I'm just a senile old woman rambling about the good old days, and maybe I am. Maybe I'm just a relic left over from the time when we bought things to last and fixed things that broke instead of throwing them away. But listen to me close. Now, because I paid a high price for the wisdom rattling around in this gray head. I paid for it with tears and empty chairs and nights so quiet. My own heartbeat sounded like a drum. I learned the hard way that time is a thief, honey. A sneaky, silent thief that don't wear a mask. It don't steal your money or your jewelry. It steals moments. It steals the chance to say I'm sorry. The chance to say I love you. The chance to ask what's wrong when you see a shadow cross someone's face. You think you have time. You think time is a river that never runs dry, that you can always make that phone call tomorrow, or visit your mama next week, or forgive your brother when you feel like it. But let me tell you something, the river dries up, the sun goes down, and sometimes tomorrow never comes. I would give everything I own, this house, this land, every single breath left in my body, just to sit at that kitchen table one more time with Johnny and eat a burnt piece of toast, just to hear Bobby tuning his guitar in the other room, just to feel the rough, calloused hand of my husband in mine. But I can't. Those doors are closed and locked tight, and all I have left are the memories swirling in the dust motes and the regret of the quiet years, the years I let pride and fear keep my mouth shut. So I'm asking you, begging you really, to put down that phone for a minute. Unless you're using it to call someone you love, look up at the sky. Look at the people around you. If you're holding a grudge, let it go. Drop it like a hot coal, because it's only burning you. If you love someone, tell them right now. Scream it from the rooftops. If you have to, don't wait for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment is a myth. The only moment you have is this one right here, right now. Messy and imperfect and fleeting. Go hug your babies till they squirm. Go kiss your husband, even if he left his socks on the floor again. Go Go visit your grandma and listen to her boring stories, cause one day you give anything to hear that voice again. And I want you to do something for me, a favor for an old lady who's nearing the end of her road. If this story meant something to you, if you felt a little tug in your chest while you listened to me ramble, I want you to share this video, not for likes or clicks or any of that vanity nonsense, but as a signal, a flare sent up in the dark. Share it for the ones you lost. Share it for the Johnnies and the Bobbies who never came home. Share it to tell the world that you remember them, that their names are still spoken, that they matter. Send this to someone you miss, someone you haven't talked to in a while, and let it be the bridge that brings you back together. Don't let the silence win, honey. The silence is heavy and cold, and it don't keep you warm at night. Love is the only thing that beats the silence. Love is the only thing that survives the grave. I'm tired. Now my voice is getting raspy, and the fireflies are starting to come out, blinking in the tall grass like little stars falling to earth. I think it'll just sit here a while longer and rock in this chair waiting for the first star to show its face. I talk to them, Johnny and Bobby, every night when the house gets quiet. I tell them I'm doing okay, that Sarah's grown now with babies of her own, that I kept the garden growing just like I promised. I tell them I'm coming to see them soon. Not yet, but soon. And I know they're listening. I can feel it in the wind that rustles the oak leaves. I can feel it in the warmth of the wood under my hand. Thank you for stopping by, honey. Thank you for sitting a spell with an old woman and letting me unburden my heart. It feels lighter. Now, knowing someone else knows the truth, knowing that my story won't just disappear when I do go on. Now go live your life. Go love hard and forgive fast. And don't you dare take a single second for granted, cause it's a gift, honey. A precious, fragile gift from the good Lord above. And when you see the sun go down tonight, you think of me, and you remember that the sun always comes back up again. Maybe not for us, but for the ones we leave behind. So leave them a world full of light. Leave them a legacy of love, not a box full of secrets and regrets. Good night, sugar lock, a gate on your way out, and drive safe, watching out for the deer on the road. I'll be right here rocking and waiting till the good Lord calls me home. You take care. Now you hear, make it count. Make every single heartbeat count.